gentlemen, I welcome all of you to another episode of our Diabetes Awareness Series, which is an initiative of the IHW Council and powered by Boehringer Ingelheim. The Think Beyond Sugar campaign has been organized to commemorate World Diabetes Day, which falls on 14th of November every year, and it basically aims to create awareness about the prevention of diabetes. So according to a study by Lancet, the prevalence of type 2 diabetes in adolescents and young adults is dramatically increasing. Onset of diabetes at a younger age is associated with longer disease exposure and increased risk for chronic complications. So to create awareness on this very important aspect, and most importantly, to educate our youngsters to move towards a preventive lifestyle, we've all gathered here today for this roundtable on lifestyle choices and diabetes amongst youth. So to talk about this very pertinent issue, I'm joined by an array of experts. Let me take this opportunity to introduce them. So I'm fortunate to join by Dr. Vinayak Harale, who's a consultant diabetologist and endocrinologist at Supreme Clinic, Pune. Welcome to the discussion, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm also joined by Dr. Sagar Gagwani, who is SMO CGHS Bhopal. Welcome to the discussion, sir. On behalf of Integrated Health and Wellbeing Council, I welcome you to the discussion. We are also joined by Ms. Meenal Pathak, who's a fitness expert and founder, Me Studio. Welcome to the discussion, Meenal.
Thank you, Bejat.
And we have with us Dr. Zakir Siddiqui, who's a consultant diabetologist and physician, JNMC Medical College, Nagpur. Welcome to the discussion, sir. I hope I am audible, Dr. Zakir.
Yes, ma'am. Clearly audible.
Thank you. So without wasting any further time, with such an array of experts with me, I'll just start with the discussion. Coming to you, Dr. Vinayak, when we talk about, this increase in numbers and how youngsters are being, getting diabetes relatively at a very young age, if we compare with what the data was earlier. So do you think there are specific demographic or socioeconomic factors that seem to influence the incidence of diabetes, especially when we talk about the younger population?
Yes. First of all, thank you, Team IHW Council, for inviting me for today's session. So first, I will just go quickly in what is diabetes in the younger population. So it can be either type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes. If it is occurring in a little younger age, means between the age group of suppose 0 to 15 or below 20 years of age, most of the time it is a type 1 diabetes, which is an insulin dependent diabetes. Otherwise, type 2 diabetes is usually adult onset diabetes, but nowadays because of the obesity, this lifestyle patterns, now we are getting more of younger age type 2 diabetes patient also. So quickly we'll see what is the difference in type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is it's an insulin dependent diabetes where the insulin is not getting produced by the pancreas because of some immunity problems. And in type 2 diabetes, insulin is getting produced, but it's not, the action is lacking. So there is a lack of action of insulin, which is called as insulin resistance, and because of which there is an increase in the blood sugar. So coming back to your question, yes, there are certain changes in the incidence of the diabetes when we see some demographic changes. It's obviously it's more prevalent in the urban area, but nowadays we are getting almost equal number of patients in the rural area as well. So it's not like it's only a disease of the people living in the urban cities because of the same lifestyle nowadays followed by the rural patients population also. So we are getting the almost similar number of patients in the both of this community. And regarding this prevalence also, that means how many patients of diabetes are there right now. So this prevalence is almost 15 to 18% in some states, but in general it is around 10 to 12%. So that means every 2 to 3 person are suffering from diabetes out of 10, if you see. So that much prevalent diseases. So that's it from my side.
Vinayak, that was a very enlightening answer and insight on, how the numbers have changed if we compare to the data that was there. Coming to you, Dr. Sagar, when we talk about this distinction in, because Dr. Vinayak also discussed about how urban settings have, that increase is being shown. But when we talk about your experience in, as in the public sector especially, and how are there distinct challenges when we talk about the urban and rural settings, and how does that those challenges are bridged? How do you navigate those distinctions if there are any? On mute, sir. If you could just unmute. Yeah, thank you.
First of all, thank you, Boehringer, for inviting me for this meeting. We must discuss the stress levels prevalent in the urban cities presently, especially the metro cities. We have to take those challenges, and we have to we have to guide our patients to maintain a work-life balance. So for that, we may motivate our patients for regular walking or joining a particular game pattern in which they are being during the school days, by which they were very good in that. So by motivating our patients, we can maintain a work-life balance for them. We can prepare a chart. We can prepare a diet pattern for what to which state he belongs, what are the dietary habits prevalent in that state. So keeping in mind the diet pattern and a part of exercise which must be done regularly, we can motivate our patients for a healthy life. And especially in the urban cities, we must focus, because in the rural cities, first of all, the most important thing is a screening. Most of the diabetic patients in the rural areas, they themselves do not know that they are type 2 diabetic. Type 1 diabetic, still in early stages, they come with some complications or something else, they come to the clinics. But type 2 diabetics, there is a long duration in which type 2 diabetics, they don't attend the clinics. So for them, the screening, the teaching pattern is a bit different. And for urban people, the teaching and motivating pattern is a bit different. So we have to keep in mind what are the heralds which are coming our way for the rural people and for the urban people.
Right, Dr. Sagar, very rightly said about. Now, coming to you, Meenal, since if we talk about how, awareness creation amongst the youth, especially since with considerable presence that you have on social media platforms, and you think these, platforms can create that amount of awareness, because like Dr. Sagar said, many patients are not even aware that they are suffering from diabetes. So, what can be the role of social media platforms as such when we talk about that level of awareness creation?
The role of social media here is actually quite funny. I would say that people generally get negatively impacted because, see, what happens is diabetes too is, particularly a lifestyle disorder. Okay, so if you're eating too much sugar, which your body doesn't need, you're not burning it that the way it has to be, your activity level is very less. So whether you are 9-year-old or you are 90-year-old or you are 70-year-old or you're 40-year-old, you will have a, slowly and steadily growing disease inside you. Okay, so I'll get girls who are as young as 11 or 12, and ladies who are as old as like 70, but they will particularly come with the same thing that I want to look like this. So actually that's the role of a social media. So I'm saying we can't really say that social media is playing a very happy and a beautiful role here, because it actually makes you compare yourself with the bodies which are there, on the net. So most of the time it is playing that negative impact on the people, because what picture you finally see on the social media, a lot of times it is not a true picture. Your faces, they have been used, a lot of filters have been used, and so is with the bodies, right? But on the other hand, realizing the importance of eating right, working out regularly, adopting the right patterns of eating, making sure that you are moving, all that plays an amazing role in creating good lifestyle and good patterns in your life. So social media primarily plays the role of making you compare with other people. So a lot of time people either go on a right side, looking at themselves and looking at the people of their age, like, oh my god, I'm 40, and at 40 I'm looking like this, and somebody who's again a 40 and looking like this, so obviously I can do that. So this could be a positive impact, and which can make you start with your workouts, start eating right and doing all the right things. But then there are people who shut them down, thinking this, oh, how can I be? And they close doors on themselves. So yeah, social media can play both the roles, but yes, somewhere this awareness is coming, because if you will see that there are lots and lots of messages which are being circulated about diabetic too, and not just diabetes, there are other problem which comes with this excessive sugar intake. So your PCOD, PCOS, and hormonal issues which start at a very young age, and they go all along, because the kind of habits you develop during your adolescence is something which you take with you. If you are not somebody who's playing, who's not somebody who loves the sports and who's playing outside, it's very difficult for you to gain those kind of habits later on. But yes, we should be spreading more and more positive messages about all these, and share information which actually helps people to come out of this disease, and give them tips, and give them more motives to do that, and give them a beautiful picture about it. But yeah, I think it is creating awareness to an extent that people get motivated, and there are people who also feel little dejected at how they're looking in comparison to the others who are doing it right.
So the issue of body image is there, of course. So coming to you, Dr. Zakir, since Dr. Sagar also talked about how counseling is an important part of, patient engagement. So when we talk about diabetes, since Meenal also discussed about how, type 2 diabetes is something which can be prevented. So do you think counseling your patients and engaging with them when it comes to lifestyle changes, nutrition, food, that is something that is, as of now, an important part of diabetes management if we see the holistic picture in the country?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank Boehringer for inviting me for this session. So it's a nice question. And basically, when you deal with all the type 2 diabetes patients, so we all know about the signs that there is either insulin deficiency, insulin relative deficiency is going on in some of the patients. In most of the patients who are obese, who there is insulin higher secretion in these patients. So we have to categorize these patients according to the metabolism going on in these patients. And the metabolism depends on insulin secretion. There is maladaptive anabolism going on when there is higher level of insulin secretion, and when there is insulin resistance going on. Because we have to talk about science whenever we are dealing with the patient, because we are a physician first, and then the other things come. So when we talk about the basic physiology, comparing with the defect in insulin secretion, insulin action, or both leading to this type 2 diabetes. So if this particular patient is having higher level of insulin secretion, or either insulin resistance is going on, we have to educate these patients about how to normalize this metabolism to go for eubolism stage. But whenever many of the type 2 diabetic patients, when they come in uncontrolled blood sugar, the catabolism going on, so we have to replace the beta cell functions also at this particular time. So counseling plays a major role in categorizing and treating these type of patients. So coming to the management part, we have to prepare our own protocol, whether we have to replace the beta cell function, whether we have to preserve the beta cell function, or whether we have to enhance the beta cell function. And when we explain about these things with the evidence of serum C-peptide, HbA1c, serum insulin level, and self-monitoring blood glucose level, these things plays major role in a long-term adherence of these patients, and the coming time we get a very good control of blood sugar. Now coming to medical nutrition therapy, this also plays a very major role because carbohydrate counting, which is very important part and which is actually ignored in 80 to 90% of patients. So giving knowledge about carbohydrate, fat, and proteins will definitely help in these patients regarding management of blood glucose control. So counseling plays a major role. We have to categorize and we have to just sort it out in within short span how we can help our patients to get good results with the long-term adherence of these patients.
Right, right, Dr. Zakir. Very, rightly you have pointed out about the different role. Dr. Vinayak, coming back to you, since you specifically talked about the urban lifestyle. So what are some of the, like if we talk about sedentary lifestyle, or even how processed food is being consumed, especially when we talk about our younger population. So what are some of the basic, where are we going wrong actually?
So it's basically it's a lifestyle disease. So if I have seen many patients, they are so obese even at the age of just 5 or 6. Their weight is around 20 or 25 kg, and we always try to plot them on the growth chart, and most of them are overweight or obese. So it's because of their lifestyle again. So again, diet and exercise is very important. Because of this, lots of consumption of the high calorie packed food items, lack of exercise. Most of they have the screen time, maybe in the form of TV, mobile, and less physical activity, outside food, junk food, means so all these patterns of eating and lack of exercise, these are most crucial factor actually in the development of the obesity. So obesity is a risk factor for developing diabetes, and it's not only diabetes. Actually, the patients are also developing some patients are developing the cholesterol problem also at the little younger age. As Dr. Minal said, that PCOD is also more prevalent because of the obesity. So other problems are also there. So it's more and more education is very important in all these patients. So I always say to the when these kids come with their parents, so it's not only about that kid who is disciplined. So entire family should be disciplined. So if someone is eating at home some junk food or cake, so we cannot say that kid that you should not eat that. And so everyone should be disciplined. What I think, if someone is having more of screen time, then we cannot ask our kid to have you just cut down and do your study. So it's all about the family education is very important. The involvement of each and every family member is important. We cannot just target that particular patient or individual. So that's what we usually educate to the entire family, not as an individual. Thank you.
Dr. Vinay. Very rightly, you have pointed out how caregivers, counseling, family, support is important in that regard. Dr. Sagar, coming to you, when we talk about the, primary healthcare settings, how can, when we talk about awareness creation, of course, like Dr. Vinayak said, caregiver counseling. So how can, healthcare settings at the primary level contribute to early, interventions? And you yourself talked about screenings and of course counseling about the preventive aspect. What are some of the initiatives that have worked in that?
Yeah, since I belong to a central government organization, we regularly do camps in the rural areas and in the underprivileged areas for the low socioeconomic people, especially those who are obese, but they are unaware that they may have a metabolic syndrome. So free camps of thyroid, free camps of fasting sugar, random sugar, or HbA1c, or lipid profile. For these, the government, there are a lot of programs which the government is undertaking, and that is all for the low socioeconomic class people. Mainly we focus on them. And specifically the people who are affluent, like some IAS, IPS, those who are coming to us in our central government organizations, we take help from them. We are spreading some pamphlets and all, and most of them, like we talked about social media, those people, where we go, we find that the elderly people, they are not having any kind of mobiles and all. So then we have to teach them in a pamphlet and all system instead of this social media first. Second, in those areas, we find that there are televisions, and Doordarshan is one of them, one of a channel which they usually like or they see. So we also conduct some kind of programs in their local language in Doordarshan, so that they can easily understand, means what are the things which they have to keep in mind while, if they are being diagnosed diabetic, then what all are the things which they have to keep in mind when they have to go for the this regular checkups, and when they have to visit the clinics. So nearby, we tell them the places where they can go, where they can get the medicines, where they can specifically those who are on insulin, then we can tell them how, means the cold chain has to be maintained, what is the cold chain. And then we tell them, if you are not having any kind of refrigerator and all these, then how to store insulin. So these are the very basic things which we have to teach them. Means they are not having so much, they cannot afford many things, so we have to find out a way for them. So means the whole society is not one and the same. We have to find out those people also who are not in a state to, means do the basic things, or do what has been told to them. So we find out the ways.
Dr. Sagar very rightly have pointed out about the importance of where there is a will, there's a will. So thanks for letting us know about such initiatives that are being taken at the primary level. Coming to you, Meenal, since Dr. Sagar also talked about that, accessibility, affordability for a larger part of the population is an issue. And, when we talk about, like you talked about body image and how people have access to that kind of information, but then there are people who do not have that access, and for everyone, it is not feasible to go and join a gym or even go for a Zumba class or things. So if you have to give some simple strategies that youngsters of any social background can incorporate in their daily lives, to proactively manage the risks, what would those be?
So I tell you these two things which I do. We take a lot of session in NGOs where we have to teach the kids the right way of eating pattern, and I have to explain to them in a very basic language like what insulin does and how can they make sure that it is not getting it can work well for them. So I tell them this very basic story that you have a cell to which you, after you eat, that energy has to go to the cell. Your cell has to open up and take the energy in. And the guard who's standing at the door of all the cells is insulin. So when you become insulin resistant, what actually happens is that guard is not telling the cell that the energy is here, and you open up your doors and take in the energy. So I tell them, because your guard is not doing the work, now you have to do the work. So, this is a very basic thing. So this is easy way for me to communicate. I actually draw it and show them that every time you eat, every time you have your meals, whether it's a breakfast or it's a lunch or a dinner, you all have to stand up and go for a slight brisk walk. You have to tell your body, this message has to go in that you had your food. So even if your body is sitting down and those cells are not getting the message that the food has come, if you walk a little, if you take a little walk, your body will start consuming that energy. So this is a very subtle way of telling them that, start moving. So because of that, at least 3 times, 15 to 20 minutes, everybody is moving and nobody is like eating and just sleeping right after their meals. And yes, the second thing I do is very simple. I actually take pamphlets which talk about how a plate has to look like. So you see, our Indian way of eating has been very different. We've never had this kind of a pattern. But now I think it's time that we have to change, and we should devise things which are easy for people to grasp. And these kids, they have pictographic memory. Okay, you show them something, they'll remember it. You talk to them for hours and hours, they'll take this much only. So it's easy for me to convey to all these NGO kids when I, do a graphical representation. So I simply show them a picture of a plate. And I tell them that your plate has to be divided in 4 equal parts. Your first part has to have a protein in it. It can be any form of protein, that if you're a vegan or non-vegetarian, so that protein has to be there. And when you sit down to eat, make sure that your protein and the next part is the vegetables. Okay, so along with the protein, they have to fix up some vegetables. In case the vegetables are not there at the home and the vegetables are not cooked, make sure you add something raw to it, like raw salad, raw chana, all that stuff. So we generally teach them how to create your own sprouts. Okay, so we tell them all the methods of cooking which are non-flame cooking, so which don't need gas, and they can fix their own plate by themselves. Okay, so we teach them protein combination, then a combination with the vegetables, which is taking half of their plate, and another half has to be 2 things of their choice. So we generally ask, what's your favorite? A lot of kids come back with saying some dessert which they'll enjoy or other things. And then a part has to be carb. Okay, so that a carb part could be any, which could be a rice or a roti, which takes 1/4 of it. And then there is a 1/4 amount which is left. What we generally do is, as most of the kids will point out to some form of sweet dish. Okay, so we generally tell them to include some kind of a fruit which has a lot of fiber along with that sweet. So if somebody says, something like a very sweet thing, we just tell them to add a fruit along with that. So the kind of a spike which it gives gets settled down. So, this is how we teach in a very basic language to everyone. And I think it's not only about those kids, it stays with everyone. Yeah, it works for everyone. And for everyone, in the sense that whether you are diabetes 2 or whether you're not even diabetes 2 or whether you're progressing toward diabetes U, if you divide your plate in this pattern, you will be able to control your portions. You'll be able to improve on those spikes which you get. And after having those meals, if you are moving for 15 to 20 minutes, and that move doesn't have to be like Dr. Vinayak said that a lot of people don't have that inclination to work out and stuff. So even if you are walking like a subtle walk, a basic walk after your meals, you will be somewhere able to control it. So these are the basic steps which people get started. Only with these basic steps, they see the improvement in their energy levels. Their energy will not dip because they are able to maintain that blood glucose level by following these simple tips. Yes, and then they are ready to do more.
Right, Meenal. I can't wait to go home and tell that story to my kids too. That really was a very, engaging answer. Coming to you, Dr. Zakir, when we talk about the cultural diversity and our way of living, when we talk about Indians, any happy occasion, any festival, we have that, sweets and oily food. And so do you think somewhere down the line, when we talk about lifestyle changes coupled with these kind of changes can play a very proactive role in managing the numbers, especially when when we're targeting the younger population?
So very well said, Dr. Meenal. I agree with Dr. Meenal. I just want to add something to Dr. Meenal. Just eating very slowly, eating mindfully will definitely increase the incretin level. We all know about our cause of type 2 diabetes. Our physiological incretin level is on the lower side. So by just changing this lifestyle, changing the eating pattern, eating habit, or just starting eating very slowly, very mindfully, and planning our plate will definitely help to increase the incretin level to physiological level, right? Now coming to cultural diversities. When cultural diversity comes in any religion, in any part, sugar comes. First and foremost part is to just substitute that particular sugar. So starting from preparing a birthday cake, why not to go for a fruit cake? preparing a fruit cake, demonstrating that in our clinic, if time permits, that will definitely give a positive message to the public, and people will start following this habit, right? And second part, whenever cultural and other diversity comes, just enjoying those foods and making a part that to when we are taking the energy, when we are energy part intake is on the higher side, why not to increase the energy expenditure by playing some games in enjoying the cultural activities? So I think these two things will definitely help. And coming to the younger population, because younger population coming are very smart, you just have to help them out about giving knowledge of right medical nutrition therapy, right knowledge of carbohydrate, fats, and proteins. Then how we can substitute the things with good food items.
Dr. Zakir, very practical tips you've talked about. Coming to you, Dr. Vinayak, when we talk about, we have already covered food and nutrition, modifiable factors, physical activity. What about, stress as an important factor? Because today's, if we look at schools, even children are so already, marks ko leke, class mein, चीजों को लेके there is a lot of stress when we talk about modern lifestyle, and I'm sure you'll agree that it's not only amongst the adult population, but kids have their own, so how do you manage that? I mean, how can we make those changes when we talk about stress, which is an important modifiable factor?
Stress is one of the very important factor for developing this increase in the level of the stress hormones. So there are hormones called stress hormones also, like catecholamines. So these values of these hormones levels goes up whenever there is a stress. So this stress in children or in adults, the results will be same. And what does these hormones do? They do in not only increase their blood glucose level, but there is also increase in the blood pressure because of the increase in this stress hormone because of the stress. So it's very important to control or understand the problem, why this stress is happening, find out the root cause, the better to see a counselor if possible, and ask them for the basic lifestyle changes like yoga, meditation. We can involve and have the little less screen time. So that will also help to reduce the stress and the pressure of some parents regarding the performance in their studies or sports. So because of the competitiveness of everywhere, so this stress also the children they do carry. So it's very important to address the cause of the stress, and if required we can take the help of psychiatrists also, because there are many patients of depression we are seeing in the younger patient also. So we go by step. First, at the level at the family itself, caregiver, we ask them to find out the cause and help the child in their possible way. That is out, then ask for the counselor or psychologist and then psychiatrist. Thank you.
Dr. Vinayak. Dr. Sagar, coming to you, when we talk about, people say that, especially with the younger population, catch them young should be the mool mantra, because, so can you give us an insight on the importance of early education, in terms of having those camps and awareness sessions in schools, and how do, they integrate with the scheme of things when it comes to government initiatives?
Yeah, regarding the integration, we can make an effort like when we are going to a particular Sarkari school, then what we are teaching to them, the students, we emphasize that they must teach their parents the same thing what we have been taught. So by this way, we can just create one camp and educate many. And if a family member is means teaching the other family members, then that impact is a very different. That impact goes through a very different way. Then we can find out through those school levels and all who are the people who are आप में से मोटे कितने सारे लोग हैं आपके घर में, call them up, we'll means educate them, we'll take them to the free camp. So by targeting one person, we can target many people at a single time. First thing. Second thing is that when we go to some labor associations or some kind of places where we find that there are a lot of people who are in a means heavy labor and all, so we find out what are the means like unhealing ulcers and all. We talk about those things कि आप में से कुछ ऐसा तो नहीं है कि किसी के घाव है जो बहुत समय से भर नहीं रहा, या अक्सर बीमार रहता है, या वेट अगेन देयर इज अ लॉस ऑफ वेट और गेन ऑफ वेट व्हाटएवर. So these kind of things we find out in means we have to categorize. First of all, we have to focus to which people, which part of population we are talking to. Then we focus on the questions what have to be asked. The third thing, then we have to go to them to tell them they have to educate other people also for the same thing. They have to find out any other family members who are having the same problem. So by this way we can, and the camp should not be means like strict to a particular like school or a particular labor association for a day only. It may be extended to 2 days or 3 days, so that what our target is to means educate other people or means diagnose other people so they can also come to us for the camps and all. Second thing is through Doordarshan. In Doordarshan programs, what we do is there is a 15 minutes of education session and 15 minutes of means the people ask questions from us. See, still we are living in a country where more than 65-70% population is living in a rural areas. So we have to target what are the modes of communication to them. Means everywhere the WhatsApp and Facebook won't work. So in these places, like in the places where they are not means in a state of having any kind of touch screen mobiles and all, so like in Doordarshan we talk to them, they can come to a nearby place, they can contact a nearby official for them if they are having these kind of symptoms, then particularly if they are having these kind of symptoms. So these are the methods through which we can means guide people one to the other, then other to the next one.
Dr. Sagar, very rightly, you have given us an insight on the initiatives that are being taken for that level of mass awareness creation. Coming to you, Meenal, when since Dr. Vinayak also talked about how stress and things play an important role. So when it comes to mental support or emotional counseling, how is that ensured, and do you is that a part of the whole journey when we talk about diabetes in the younger population especially?
Definitely a very important part, because charity begins at home. So just like Dr. Sagar Gangwani said, so there is this very famous saying also that diseases don't run in the family. It's actually nobody who runs in the family. That's why everybody keeps getting those diseases. So we know families who have typically eating aloo parantha for their breakfast forever, and then the size of the waist of the parents to the kids to everyone is just the same. Yeah. So no matter how much you try to convince to them, if they are not changing their basic eating patterns, nothing is going to change. Yeah. So yes, definitely it begins at home. And as far as stress is concerned, we all as Indian parents need to take this change in themselves, that they don't have to pass on their stress to their kids. Let them be kids till the time they can stay kids. And I think it's a high time that we start adopting these habits, because it is now killing their creativity. And we all know that it's no more an age in which, just because your kid is crossing some mark limit, he's going to be better than the other kid next door. Because nowadays, those exams and those clerical jobs is over. It's about what different, stuff your kid can bring to the kind of a work he's doing. So it's more about creativity. It's more about uniqueness. It's more about what little extra your kid can give to the society, your kid can bring to the table on his work. So nobody is really now asking about the marks, and it's no more a marks game. So let's please drop the kind of a stressors we've been putting on our kids forever. Like, I know parents who've been doing it from class 3 and 4, and there is a race that, my kid come back from the school at 2 o'clock, then he goes for this class, then he goes for this class, and then he goes for this class. Why? Where is the creativity factor coming in then? Let your kid be free. Let him sit and get bored. Let him create something out of his toys. Let him play. Let him read. Let him read without getting stressed. Let him read the stuff that he wants to read. Let him at least start enjoying his life, because that's something which he learns now will be carried forever. Okay. So let him create his de-stressors right now. It could be running, it could be jogging, it could be just playing football without any goals, target, with the kids in the park. So, all these habits which are dying out in the race, which everybody is running for no reason, some rat race, which parents are running and they're pushing their kids into that race. For God's sake, please stop. Please stop passing your stress to the kids. And this all has to start from home. And another very important factor, which I think plays the role, is the sleep schedule. All kids suddenly have a very disrupted sleep schedule. At least the ones who come to me, they'll sleep at 12. And I was like, why? Where is this coming from? Why you have to sleep at 12? Where are the times when kids used to sleep at 7 and 8? We all, when we have to get up at 6, primarily sleep by 7 and 8. And that's what we have been doing at kids forever. So why kids nowadays are sleeping at 12? And then why are we complaining about all the depressionist attitudes and, sleep cycle disorders are the major cause. The kids are not recovering well. Nutrition is one part, but sleep is very important part as far as kids are concerned in their growth cycle. If they're not sleeping right, where is that growth hormone gonna come? Kids are sleeping at 12 at 1 and, getting up again. Obviously, everybody is going school. So I think that those two things are very important. And for the second factor, somewhere parents will have to sacrifice, because they will also have to sleep. You can't really put your kids in the bed at 7 and then you stay awake till 12. They will do what you're doing. So watch what you are doing, because your kids are exactly doing what you're doing. Yeah. So yes, it all starts at home. And I think we have to change our habits at home so that this new generation, which is coming up, grows out to be humble, happy being in themselves, not by, accumulation of stuff, but by adopting very simple, sustainable habits.
That was really an eye-opener in that sense, and I'm sure that our audience will take a lot of parenting tips from today's session. Coming to you, Dr. Zakir, when we talk about early detection being very important for timely intervention, do you see this change in technology with gadgets like with a single click of your mobile or even your smartwatch, you can just monitor your vitals? So you think this is going to bring some positive impact in near future?
Yeah, very nice question. When there is early detection, artificial intelligence and this mobile apps and other monitoring gadgets plays major role, because it all depends on the awareness of that particular disease and how to monitor that thing, and then after monitoring, how to change the lifestyle. Then only the result oriented work will be done. So by monitoring these things, giving awareness about the blood sugar monitoring, blood pressure, even heart rate plays a major role when there is monitoring of heart rate. So obviously, monitoring the vitals will definitely help in future disease management. And even at the initial stage, when you stop even for example, type 2 diabetes, when you preserve the beta cell function, obviously that particular patient won't land up in other complications.
Dr. Zakir very rightly have pointed out. Coming to you, Dr. Vinayak Harale, in most of the other sessions, we have discussed about the risk factors at the starting of the session. But this time, I purposely put it at the very ending, so that through the whole discussion, if you had to pick out 2 or 3 important risk factors and create awareness around them, especially with the focus on the younger population, what would be your top 5 risk factors?
Okay. So top 2 would be obesity and stress. So again, the remaining, I would add just in the list again this sedentary lifestyle, lack of exercise, eating junk food, outside food. So these are the basic risk factor which are modifiable risk factor. So non-modifiable risk factors are like if my parents are diabetic, strong family history, which is not in your hand. But obviously the things which we can modify with a good lifestyle, diet and exercise, less stress, and maintaining our body weight. The body mass index, we should know it should be around 2022. It should not be in the overweight also, because overweight is also risk factor for developing diabetes. One should know their waist circumference also. It should not be more than 80 centimeter in women or more than 94 centimeter in men. So all these parameters we should keep a watch, so that we can check whether we are on the healthier side or not. And do the preventive some blood checkup also. If someone is already into the overweight or obesity or strong family history, there we just ask them to do a random sugar, or preferably we can do the 3-month average sugar, that is called HbA1c, and the other test if required like cholesterol and all.
Dr. Vinayak, coming to you, Dr. Sagar, anything else that you would want to focus on with a emphasis on risk factors, how lifestyle changes, anything that you think must be addressed at this point in the conversation and we have not covered yet? If you would want to give us an overview of that.
For younger population, I just want to say one thing: stop comparing. This is the thing which means I usually go to the schools and I tell students, stop comparing yourself with others. First thing, everybody means every human is different. The capabilities are different. So we have to means make them understand that what one can do, you cannot do, or what the you are doing, he might not be able to do. So stop comparing with other people. That will means reduce the stress level to a lot of extent once they start accepting this fact. So for them to accept this fact, we have to demonstrate in some means a game way, or some ways like in a way which they can understand. Like means we can play a little indoor game or outdoor game. Like he is doing a very good bowling, but you're not capable. Still, you are doing a very good batting. He is not means. So once we means make them understand that comparison is a thing which will create only a stress factor in you, and it won't be able to means make you go in a better way. And we have to tell them that they have to teach these things to other people also. So again, we cover a very less mass, but we have to go to a larger mass. So then we have to spread our message in a widespread way. So means one thing is comparison. The other thing is start accepting yourself. What God has made you, how God has made you, you have to accept it. You cannot means just regret, or you cannot always be in a mode of questioning your parents, or means God, or anybody, or your elder sister or elder brother. You aapne ye nahi kiya, aapne mere liye wo nahi kiya. These things we have to make them understand, that instead of means criticizing other people, we must find out our defaults, are means the ways in which we can improve. And for that we means we also tell them that they must not keep that in their mind कि उसको लेकर के बैठना नहीं है. You have to make yourself better. You have to let go. The other things you have to let go. These kind of things, they'll reduce depression. And again, stress level, their eating habits, their sleeping pattern, everything can be maintained once they start accepting their own selves first thing, and start means accepting that they cannot be compared to the other people. So there are very few things, very few means aspects on which we should focus, so that these these can be achieved.
very rightly have pointed out about how that uniqueness of every individual needs to be celebrated, and letting go, of course, is an important part of stress management, actually. Coming to you, Meenal, when we talk about, because Dr. Sagar also, I think, talked about yoga and how physical activities, and then, of course, the government is also taking a lot of initiatives in that regard, going back to millets, International Year of the Millets, having organic food, and going back to our basic way of living, like you told about sleeping early. So that was one way of living 20-30 years back, and if you go to rural side, that is the way of living even nowadays also. So what would be your if we talk about integrating those traditional means in our modern way of living? You've talked about how sleep pattern is important, and then, of course, nutrition. What other things would you want to include in that mantra of going back to basics, if we talk about?
One thing which we generally talk about is eating together, which is again dying out very, very fast nowadays. That you'll not see families eating together. Everybody will have a different time. So we tell parents to start at least having this one meal together. So we understand kids leave for school early, lunchtime, parents are not there. But please make sure that you have dinner together, all of you sitting together at one place and mindfully eating your dinners. And please say a prayer with your kids. It's not about what faith you're following. It's just being about thankful for that meal on your table and eating happily whatever is there right now on your table. And another such activity which we tell parents and kids to do is write a grateful journal every night. So this is just to see, a lot of things happen with you the whole day. Okay. And most of the time you consume yourself with that one thing which happened, which didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen. So you leave the 99% part of your day and you kept thinking about that one person, and that one person consumes you thoroughly. But when you sleep, just 5 minutes of writing, a journal where you typically write about everything which happened right with you the whole day. You can just be thankful about having a family, being with family, eating together, sleeping, or you had some friends. So many things, for which you are thankful. It changes the way with which you sleep. And, actually, these are two basic points. One, when you're going into that deep sleep, and second, when you're rising up. Okay. So before you start your day, we talk this to parents that please, give few words to your kids before you leave. Okay. And those few words shouldn't be like, oh, again, you are late. No, please don't start the day with this. Okay. Go and hug your kids. Go and hug your partner. And, you actually should rise up, rub your hands, that being thankful, feeling that blessedness every day will set a very different pattern of events in your life, because we keep our focus on something else. But before you go into that theta state before sleeping, and the first thing when you come out of that subconscious state after your sleep, are two times when that door is very slightly open. So pick up those times to pass on the right thoughts, not in only in your mind, but in your kids' mind also. So let's get that generations right. Okay. So writing a thankful journal every night or every morning, whichever way suits you, is a very different way of looking at the things. And slowly and steadily, you will see that you will start focusing more on the positive side of the things, just because you're actually putting it down. So that's why we call it spell. When you write it down, you cast a spell there. So writing down makes a lot of difference. So yes, these two changes I think are very simple and can be consistently done, and brings in a lot of change. I've seen how it changes the way people look at the things, because you can think, you can see, but when you actually write it down, it has a very different impact.
Right, Meenal, thanks for so many tips to bring that kind of positivity in one's life. Coming to you, Dr. Zakir, what would be your major takeaway for today's session? Any message to the audience before I go back to Dr. Vinayak and Dr. Sagar for their message for our audience?
First of all, take off message will be just monitoring the body compositions. Whenever any of the obese patient comes, can we just measure the body composition, body fat, visceral fat, muscle percentage, and then taking out that BMR, according to that, giving the energy intake and energy expenditure will be done from patient's part. So by doing this thing every 3 monthly or 6 monthly, this will help the patient for long-term adherence.
Right.
And this is a non-invasive thing. Even simple measuring the waist circumference will definitely help the patient for long-term adherence.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right, Dr. Zakir. Very rightly you have pointed out. Dr. Vinayak, what would be your major takeaway for our audience?
Be happy, healthy, have a good food, conscious eating, do regular exercise, keep positive. And even if you diagnose with diabetes, it's not the end of world. There are various medicines are available, so don't get depressed or stressed why it is only to me. So be always positive. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Vinayak. Dr. Sagar.
I would like my audience to take this message. Be in a peaceful mind. Your mind governs the way your life will go ahead with you, and what you'll eat, how you'll sleep, means what kind of sleep pattern you will be having, means how your future will be. It all depends on your peace of mind. And talk to your parents. What for younger population, obviously, I want to tell, be in a peaceful mind and talk to your parents.
Right. That is very important. So that indeed was a very, very insightful session. And I'm sure that we had so many, different experts from different, offering different perspectives. And I'm sure that the audience is totally inspired the way I am today. And they'll take a lot of relevant information that will help them in proactively, managing risk factors and moving towards that preventive lifestyle, which is the need of the hour. And that is all for today. I must thank all my experts for taking out time from their very busy schedule and joining us today for this session. Thank you to all the doctors, Dr. Sagar, Dr. Vinayak, Dr. Zakir, Meenal. Thanks for being with us and sharing your experiences and insights on this very important and pertinent topic. And with this, I'll just call it a day, and we'll see you all again another insightful discussion. Till then, keep following our social media pages and keep yourself happy, be safe, be healthy. Thank you everyone for being with us.
Thank you.